Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. So we are in the 32nd shloka of the first chapter in Bhagavad Gita. We finished up to 31 the last time. So the 32nd shloka goes like this. न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखानि च किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा. So when we just recap it, it started with Dhritarashtra asking the question, followed by the war front being described by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. And then it came to the point where the war was about to commence and people started blowing the conch and start beating the drums and so on, getting absolutely ready. At that time, Arjuna picked up his Gandiva as though getting ready for the war, but he asks Krishna to take the Rath to the place in the middle of the war front between the two armies, from where he can take a look at those who are so desirous of having this war, to fight this war. Yuddhe priyachikir is the way that he expresses. Bhagavan takes the Rath and stops it from a place where Arjuna can clearly see Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya among others. As soon as he sees them, a meltdown happens in Arjuna, and instead of seeing the enemies of the war front, he started seeing the kinsmen. And now he is going down the path of that meltdown and he is expressing these words. Na kankshe vijayam. I do not desire a victory. O Krishna, nacha rajyam. Also not the kingdom. As well as sukhanicha. We can either make it as Rajya Sukham, means the Sukh that the kings or the privileged class people have an access to, or Sukham in general, that is, living a peaceful, contented life, right? As an, having a total involvement in the Rajya or, proceeding the normal way of life. Even that I don't need. Kim naha rajyena. Naha is us, kim is what? So what use will it be for us to get this kingdom, hey Govinda, O Lord Krishna, kim bhogaihi, and what enjoyment or bhogam, the experiences will there be, jivitenava, of leading such a life, as in after having killed our own kinsmen, after having killed our own gurus and others, what is the fun in at all having this to go? That is the way that Arjuna approaches the situation. Now, justification to Arjuna's emotion. Mahabharata is an epic that has 125,000 verses, which does not include Harivamsa, which is considered to be the 19th Parva. Right? If you remember, we are in Bhishma Parva right now. Right? So there are so many other Parvas more. Another 13 Parvas will come, and then Harivamsa will come, which has sub-Parvas as well. So it is a really vast epic. Having read some of it, right, maybe about 10 or 12% of it is the way that I would put it in terms of reading it through shlokas or something of that sort. Even that may be a bigger number. But I have gone through several stories of Mahabharata. I have learnt it from my grandmother who has told the stories, or I have gone to Upanyasa, right? So there are several places where I have learnt about Mahabharata, and I personally know of at least 300 named personalities. And the number of characters is said to be over 1000, which is named or perhaps unnamed as well. Right. For example, mother of Vidura is not named at all. She is only identified as a Dasi. Right. So there is nowhere in Mahabharata the name of Vidura is name of mother of Vidura has been mentioned. So we are talking in terms of several such instances where name is also not there, but we are talking in terms of thousands of personalities that are there in this epic. Of those who fought the war, I know of at least 100 named personalities, right? Of them, about 70 perished and only 30 survived. For this purpose, for writing this, presentation, I started putting all the names that I am aware of in an Excel spreadsheet and see what it was. And this is the kind of number that it came to. We are talking of 70% of the warrior class being destroyed in this war. And only 30% survived, or perhaps even less. Right. And given the number of 18 Akshahini, the numbers perished will be in millions. This is a massive destruction. So there is indeed a validity in what Arjuna felt as he realized this possible outcome. Then why adharma? There are three reasons based on Kshatriya Niti, the rules or the dharma that a Kshatriya is to follow has several niti, several rules or several prescriptions, and these are considered to be some of the main reasons why withdrawing from the war is considered to be an adharma. First and foremost thing is, analysis is done before a decision is made and not after the decision. If you read the Mahabharata carefully, there is a total of 1.25 parva that provides details on the efforts and analysis that was done before determining that war is the only ultimate way out of this. There are 11 chapters of Udyoga Parva, and there are 24 chapters of Bhishma Parva. 25th is the Bhagwat Gita, which is the commencement of the war. So we are talking in terms of an extraordinary amount of thinking has gone. The due diligence that has been performed is so very thorough that the decision was not taken as a, out of sudden, engagement. It was not a momentary decision. Rather, it was a fully thought out and effort-based decision. But even otherwise, the Kshatriya Dharma says, once you have taken the step forward into a Dharma Yuddha, you should not take back. Now, he forgot that given the entire peace effort to the point where Duryodhan even tried to capture Lord Krishna is self-revealing that should the war be withdrawn now, those who came in support of Arjuna will face the injustice from Duryodhan. And Duryodhan has been very well established as a personality of that kind. So even the small, relatively a smaller army is consisting of several other kings and kingdoms. There will be a wrath that will be exposed or that will be expressed by Duryodhan, and the kings who have come in support of Arjuna or in support of Pandavas will have to face it subsequently. So it is not just that I am fighting a war for myself, it is the team effort that needs to be taken into consideration, and the effect of me withdrawing, how it is going to impact the entire team. That is another very, very important concept that Arjuna overlooked. Now, Kshatriyas are driven by victory and establishment of Dharma. They are not driven by Sukham. Sukham, if you pay close attention to Vishnu Sahasranama's Phalashruti, right? Vedanta go Brahmana syat, Kshatriyo Vijayi bhavet, Vaishyo Dhana Samruddha syat, Shudraha Sukhama vapnuyat. It is Shudras who are after the Sukham. We have even analyzed it at that time that if your drive is from the point of view of getting Sukham, that means you are in the Shudra category. You need to understand that Guna Karma Vibhakashaha, that is the basis. It is not based on birth or anything of that sort. It is purely based on guna and karma, and to that we can also add this phala akanksha, wherein if you are a Brahman, you are driven by the desire to learn the Parabrahma, which is Vedanta, the Upanishads. Right? The Kshatriyas are driven by the desire to win. Vijayi Bhavet. Vaishyas too are not really bothered about the Sukham. They are driven by the prosperity, which is measured in terms of dharmam, which is measured in terms of the material prosperity that they can attain. They are willing to let go of Sukham in order to get this Dhana Samruddhi. That is what is the main concept here. And we have seen it, right? A great trader, right? Despite the fact that he may be the number one richest man in the world, he is still driven by the same passion to earn more. That is Vaishya. The Sukham is generally by several of us, like, okay, having contented job that is good enough, trying to live within our means, right? And enjoy the life. That enjoy the life is a part of an expression of the Shudratvam in us. Here, what Arjuna has done is he says, Rajyam Sukhanicha, right? Kim bhogair jivitenava. All these are expressions that very clearly establish his leaning towards the Shudratvam in his attitude. He should have been driven by the victory in the war. So there are several things that can be quoted in terms of Kshatriya Bhavam, but these are the most important one wherein we can see that Arjuna failed in his dharma. Now, what is Arjuna's moham? Now, it becomes more established that Arjuna is getting deluded, which means he is missing out on identifying what is dharma and what is adharma. That is the fundamental to a moham or a delusion. The right and wrong classifications are always relative. I think it is Shakespeare who has said nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Right? The same thing can be applied to nothing is right or wrong. It is the point of view that makes it so. Right? So this moham will create an illusionary concept wherein that which is adharma will be seen as dharma, and that which is dharma will be seen as adharma. And that we can see more and more happening in Arjuna. The intellect started functioning under the influence of delusion, overlooking all the knowledge and greatness Arjuna had exhibited in the past. As I had mentioned earlier, he would have advised in favor of war and would have encouraged Yudhishthira to take the decision on those lines. So it is not that he is not aware of it, but he is deluded. He started seeing adharma as dharma and dharma as adharma. Now, this is also described in some traditions as manaha influencing the buddhi and overpowering it. Right? Now, we need to understand the relationship between how the manaha and the buddhi, etc., operate, how the antakarana operate. The karmendriyas, very clear. It allows you to function. The jnanendriyas, very clear. It acquires data from outside and feeds you. The pranan is very well established, where it provides the capability, the energy aspect of it, which is required for any function. The pancha prana. The place where the clarity is required is chittam, manam, buddhi, and ahankara. Right? Chittam is the memory. Again, it is not just the memory which we attribute the brain towards. We are talking in terms of the entire body, as the modern science calls it, as the genetic memory. Right? It is also there in the, what do you say? I think it is in the DNA level they talk of it. Right? The thing is, our Shastra always says that this chittam is totally there. Right? So that is the chittam. Right? Then manam. Manam is the creative aspect in your mind, the deliberating aspect in your mind, right? The emotional aspect in your mind. All these things are considered to be manaha. Right? That is why when I'm talking of emotion, I always touch my heart. It is not that in the heart is making you think like that, or the heart is becoming emotional. The physical heart merely pumps the blood. It is not the golakam for the manaha, but manaha stems from the heart. We have even discussed it in the past, right? But manaha uses the chittam and the buddhi to function. However, there may be times where it ignores the feed it gets from chittam and buddhi and independently acts. So it can act in an emotional manner or in a rational manner. But that which enables such an action is always the manaha. Right? Buddhi is that which allows you to dissect things logically and rationally and come to conclusions. Ahankara is that which tells, oh, I did it. You know that you might have done it. Even then, the ahankara will not go and take it as a ownership. It will prefer that which it wants to take as a ownership. That aspect of it is ahankara, where I attribute the term I for having done something by this body. Right? So that association of the I, in psychology, it is called as id, the ego, superego, etc. That is what is the ahankara. Now, all these four has to work together. The times when the rational aspect of your buddhi is superseded by the emotional aspect that is coming from your mind is called as manas having taken over. And while it is possible that even from the manodharma, it is dharma, which is, it may be in the path of righteousness, but most of the time, when the manas is overpowering the buddhi, remember that it is very likely that the path is more of adharma than dharma. Right? So, the important lesson is how can I identify myself? And that is what all these things that we spoke about come into being, right? Think how your manas is working. And that is why the meditation is of such a great value, right? Where you allow yourself and exercise upon manaha. There are several things that we can do with meditation, right? And we should practice all of them, right? So that is what comes to me as the important lessons for us. The positive side to Arjuna is, this is at least expressed by one of the schools, right? They see his ability to negate Rajyam and Sukham, and they associate this to Vairaagya. Our school doesn't do that. We don't look at it from that point of view, right? It is not Vairagya when you are trying to skip away from your dharma. But there was a specific mention wherein the tradition that had written those notes was looking at it from the point of view of Vairagya, right? I'm not saying it is not a valid claim, or I'm not saying it is a valid claim. I'm just saying that this is what I have read and I'm bringing it to your attention, right? I leave it to you in terms of how you want to take it. But to let go of the Rajyam and Sukham is seen as a Vairagya by that school. Moving on to the Shloka number 33. Yeshamarte kangshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha tayimeva stitha yuddhe pranam tyaktva dhanani cha. So it is now continuing on the same emotional plane. Yesham arte, for whom the arthe is the purpose, purusharthe. That's the aspect of it. For whom, for the purpose of whom, kankshitam naha is desired by us. Rajyam bhogaha, the kingdom as well as the pleasures, as in the material enjoyments. And sukhanicha, as well as the health, the happiness and welfare associated. Te ime avasthitaha. All of them are present here. Where? In the battlefield, yuddhe, right? Pranam tyaktva dhananicha. Willing to let go of their life and also the prosperity, their wealth. So this is the place where again that moham is coming into picture, right? As I was telling from even Duryodhan's point of view, when we are out in the war, it is not the outcome of death, or it is not the outcome of losing something that should be striking our intellect. Right? It should be a single focus of victory, which was demonstrated as a child by Arjuna. Look at the eyes of the bird, and he was not able to see anything else. That should be the focus, driven by victory as the purpose. But he is now a little deluded. Now, in Varna Ashrama Dharma, we already spoke about it, where how is the Varna Ashrama Dharma classified? We know that this Prakriti is made of three guns, right? The Maya, as a term used in the Advaitic school, right? It is Trigunatmika Maya, the three guns coming together to create this illusory world is the Maya, is the way that we are seeing. Now, we are talking in terms of three guns, but four varnas. Why is it so? Right? The reason is that which prevails in a person. Everybody will have all the three guns. Okay? Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Anything that can be objectified, that can be known, is made of three guns, is the way Bhagavan will say. later in the 45th Shloka of the second chapter. Now here, the three guns will always fight with each other, trying to overpower and establish itself. This is called as Guna Adikyam. This comes in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you take this into consideration, we have the Sattvic Gun, which is considered to be the supreme of all, the Rajasic Gun, which is the second, and the Tamasic Gun, which is the third, in terms of the value that it brings into a jiva. Right? So if a person is Sattva Gun Pradhan, let us put it this way, he's 70% of the times in Sattvic Gun, 10% in Kshatriyam, and another 20% in Tamasam. Right? If he is like that, because he is Pradhan, his most influential gun in him is Sattva Gun, he is classified as Brahman. Whereas if the Rajasic Gun is taking over, so for Sattva Gun, the second and the third doesn't really matter. He is Sattvic in nature, so he is called as Brahman. But for a person who is in the Kshatriya bhavam, for him it will be the Rajas which will be driving him predominantly. But the second in command, the second most influencing gun in that person will be the Sattvic gun. And that is why they fight for dharma. Whereas a Vaishya, it will be more like, material gain. Right? And that is why the Shudratvam will be the second. They both Kshatriya as well as the Vaishya have to be Rajasic in nature. They have to be outgoing. They have to be performing. They have to establish themselves. That is given. That is the Rajasic aspect of it. But what is the driver? Whether it is Dharma, which makes them a Kshatriya, or whether it is Dhana Samruddhi, which is more of tamasic value, which is for their own purposes. Right? That is why it is said that they are born from the stomach. Right? It is more very, indicative in terms of how you want to understand it. For their own selfish gains is the meaning of that. When that is the driver, then they become Vaishya. So it is Rajoguna Pradhanam. The second one is Sattvikam, or the second one is Tamasam. Shudratvam is Tamoguna Pradhanam. Right? One who desires to acquire and possess wealth is Vaishya. Tektva dhanani cha, therefore, does not fit the category of Kshatriya whom Arjuna is facing there. Giving up life in the war is a pride for Kshatriya. Right? And we have seen this in several movies also. I think the best of it is Forrest Gump, when the captain is kind of, rescued by Forrest Gump, or by Forrest. He says that you should have let me die there. I would have died an honorable death, kind of a stuff. That is what is made of, that is what is Kshatriyatvam. The delusion pushes Arjuna down to a Vaishya bhavam and a Shudra bhavam, which is with his words such as Bhogam, Sukham, Pranam Tektva, Tektva Dhanam, etc. In tradition, we give the emphasis to Shudratvam, overshadowing one of the most excellent Kshatriyas. Right? It is, in every angle, throughout Mahabharata, you can see such a great personality being presented in Arjuna. And here we see how Shudratvam can even overpower and influence the best of the Kshatriyas in the world. This is a lesson to us saying that, Naresh, if you are in Sattvic Bhavam, It doesn't mean that the tamasic bhavam will not take over me or the rajasic bhavam will not take over me. It is just that when I become a gunatitaha, I understand guna guneshu vartante. All these are words from Bhagavad Gita. We will see it in the future. We take it as a reminder that guna adityam is natural and guna atitam is the liberation. We will just take it for a note here. So don't get overwhelmed if you are seeing the influence of Shudratvam growing in you or tamasic nature is overpowering you. They all will happen. They are very natural in nature. It is absolutely fine. I just made an observation on the contemporary world. Sukham is being promoted as the supreme of all. So many videos, so many WhatsApp forwards I'm seeing where, people who are in a position of great respect in the society are speaking on these lines, totally out of ignorance, right? There are videos that come up to say that, hey, at the end of the day, when you die, nothing comes to you. They just leave. The people may come up to the funeral place and they will forget you and they will continue their life. So start living for yourself. It is such a bad influence, but it is expected in Kali. We just need to be aware of it, that Sukham being promoted as the supreme of all is merely making Shudratvam to be promulgated, to be promoted within the society. I will leave it to others' decision in terms of whether it is good or bad. From a Shastra point of view, we should not, right? It should be, there are specific orders. The first is created is the Brahman, and then the Kshatriya is created from there. After all these things, the Bhagavan will give the power of running the world to the Kshatriyas, not to the Brahmins. It's an Upanishadic word that I'm quoting here. The fact is, should the Sukham be the driver of the society? Promoting the Sukham is not wrong at all. We have to, as a king, we have to take care of the Shudras. That is a dharma as well. Right? When you go into Manuniti, etc., it is so well done. Right? People are not fully aware of what the Manusmriti says, but the fact is, the punishment that is given for some of the offenses to a Brahman will be much more severe when compared to a punishment given to a Shudra. And for some kind of offenses, it will be the other way around. I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong, because that is not our constitution. That is not the way the world is running today. It is the knowledge that we derive from that. And from that point of view, we have to think, should Shudratvam be promoted into the society, or should it be supported in the society? Right? The natural progression of human kind is based on Purushartha, Dharmam, Artham, Kamam, and Moksham. Right? Dharmam is upholding the righteousness. That is why even a thief will want his partner to be, being fair to him, not cheat on him. Right? So that is the natural tendency, that upholding of righteousness is Dharmam. Artham is effort towards fulfillment of material needs. Kamam is providing the space for creative or beautifying your kshetra, the emotional fulfillment aspect, including progeny. The next generation is all part of the Kamam. Moksham is liberation, both in overcoming the gaps in life as well as the eternal liberation, right? Unfortunately, moksha has been tainted with eternal liberation as the only meaning. Moksha simply means liberation. And if you have a problem and you liberate yourself from the problem, it is a moksha. Literal in the Sanskrit word sense. How it is used, how it is applied in the society, I'll leave it to you. But the fact is, when we talk of Purushartha, called as moksham, the drive in us to attain the liberation from the gaps which we are witnessing in us is called as moksham. Dharma is the subtle thing that manages the balance in the social needs. Adharma is that which brings about a change to this balance that drives fulfillment of Purusharthas. Okay, so we need to understand that dharma is right and adharma is wrong. The dualistic sense of looking at dharma and adharma we should overcome. And we have gone through a very detailed class as well on this. But anyway, this is the main thing that I wanted to cover for this particular shloka. Now, varna based only on gun and karma and is not based on birth or kul. We saw from the guna adhikya point of view. Here, let us look at the same from other angles as well. Brahman is one who develops the understanding through constant examination of the changes in the world that impact the balance and identifies the adharma as the root cause. Very beautifully said in Mundaka Upanishad, right? Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedhamayat is the way that particular mantra goes, right? Now, their applicability or their driver is the knowledge. Learning, applying the knowledge, teaching, and upholding the dharma is their duty. Kshatriya helps in remedying the adharma through niti and yuddham, through the policies, the politics, and the war. Selflessness is the key to Kshatriyatvam. They hold no fears. And sometimes, when as an individual you look at some people and they have no fear at all, and that kind of astonishes us. That is because of the Kshatriyatvam that they hold on to. Death is seen as a boon and are committed to serve dharma. When they fail, they fall under the category called asuras and rakshasas. So asuras and rakshasas are also Kshatriyas, but not favoring dharma, but being driven with the same property of a Kshatriya, however, being self-indulgent and promoting their own self only. Vaishya, those who risk the engagement in the creation of wealth. Selfishness is the key and are dependent on the Kshatriya for protection of the acquired wealth. They are bound by their desires to acquire more and live in fear, which is lower than Shudras, as they have plenty and can often address some of their fears using their own accumulated wealth. And yet their fear is always constantly on the rise. Right? The more the wealth they acquire, the more fear as well they acquire. Shudras are those who serve the other three. They earn through their services and uphold their priorities in fulfilling their own desires. They elevate to the supreme through devotion to God. Right? In Brahman, we said it is by knowing or by understanding the concept called as God and seeing that God in the Atma Swarupam. That is what is a Brahman. Whereas in the Shudratvam, in the Vaishya, or even in the Kshatriyas, it is their elevation is always subject to the devotion. That is why bhakti gains such an important aspect in life. A Brahman cannot let go of the bhakti because he is seen as a role model. And for the other three, bhakti is essential, is required. The devotion is required to maintain that balance. And hence, the general perception is the devotion to God should be the key driver into all the other three. They are bound by their needs and live in constant fear. Right? They are very unsettled. If in case they have got a particular rhythm of life, they are very comfortable. But if you unsettle them, they kind of lose their ability to function efficiently. Right? All the depression or any other term that you use is because of that. Because they are more used to serving, and if their life is, the routines are impacted, then the fear immediately takes grip in them. These four continue to coexist no matter which country, which religion, or which organization you belong to. Mityachara are those who belong to a specific varna but assume the role of another or fail to perform their role in their varna. So both are equally applicable, right? Naresh is, let us say, a Shudra, but I am trying to make myself as a Kshatriya and live. That is also Mityachara, right? Or I am a Shudra, I am supposed to be serving, but I take up, say, something like, trading, right? I start a company and I start working towards making money, right? That is also a Mityachara. No, it is not definite, it is not clearly defined or it is not identified as this is what this is. The pointer is a guideline. How it applies to each of us is left to us to measure. Naresh will never be able to measure, Prabha or Jyoti or Shubha or anyone for that matter. I cannot measure others and others cannot measure me. It is very individual in nature, but we need to understand that sometimes we are in a false impression about our own self, and this is a warning for all of us. Coming back to the shloka, Arjuna's role under the current circumstances is to fight for the establishment of dharma. Rajyam, Sukham, Swajanam, for that matter, the entire earth has no relevance. Right? We have seen that. Atmarte prithvim tyajet was one of the, niti that we had gone through. Arjuna's tamoguna pravritti can be attributed as the cause of this downfall. This also leads one to realize that one could be predominantly sattvic, but they too will come under the influence of rajasic and tamasic goods. Gita teaches us that taking the help of Bhagwan as seen in seeking help from a more rational person at that point in time with the devotion to God must be pursued. That is the biggest of the lesson from Bhagavad Gita. Be open. It is not necessary that a person like Naresh who has studied Gita should be there to provide this advice. It could come from somebody whom you do not expect at all. But when you need help, be open to take it. Arjuna falls, and in the next chapter, realizes and surrenders. This is the most important value. In this first chapter, it is only Arjuna Vishadam, where he is falling. But in the next one, he surrenders. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha is the way that the surrendering aspect goes. Right? So it is such a beautiful place. And the biggest of the lesson for us is be ready to surrender. Be ready to seek help when you need. Right? And be alert to that. That is the biggest value that we gain from this shloka. Shloka number 34. Acharya pitarah putraha tathaiva cha pitamahaha matulashvashurah pautraha shyala sambandhinastatha. So here he is looking at the people and identifying the relationship with them. Acharyaha, the teachers. Pitaraha, the father-like figures. Putraha, tata, children-like youngsters, as well as eva cha pitamahaha, certainly also Bhishma Pitama, right? Shvashuraha, right? This is a common word that we use, sasur, in Hindi. That is what is shvashuraha, father-in-laws or father-in-law like people. Pautraha, grandchildren. Shyalaha, this is again a very common word used, sala. Sala is a brother-in-law. Sambandhinaha. Unfortunately, we don't have an English equivalent for this particular relationship. Say, for example, my son has been married to Mr. X's daughter. Right? Now, Mr. X and I become sambandhis. Right? Sambandhi means well bound together. Right? That is the true meaning of sambandhi. But the way that it is used is the relationship between the people who have married, when you relate it to their elders. That is what is sambandhinaha. Tatha is finishing it. And okay, so that's all it is basically, tatha. Now we will take a look at Vidura for this. The lineage which we have seen earlier is Shantanu and Ganga. Bhishma is born, and Shantanu and Satyavati, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya are born. Satyavati and Parashar is Vedavyasa, which is through Niyogam, right? The second generation, Vichitravirya dies before any children, right? So there is a first Chitrangada dies. He dies very early, right? And then Vichitravirya dies before having any children. Hence, being the mother to Vedavyasa, Satyavati requests Vedavyasa to perform Niyoga. So Ambika and Vedavyasa, Dhritarashtra is born. Ambika and Vyasa, Pandu is born. And Parishrami. Parishrami means, it is not a name, okay? Parishrami means one who does a lot of efforts, who puts in a lot of effort, very diligent, hardworking, etc. So that is why when I said Vidura's mother has not been named, the places where she is called as Parishrami could be pointed out to say that is a name. The fact is, it is not a name, that she is of that type of a person, very, very hardworking. But the name of Vidura's mother has not been mentioned anywhere. Now, the third generation is Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. We have Duryodhan and Kauravas. Pandu and Kunti, we have the 5 Pandu Putras plus Kunti's and son's son, which is Karna. Right? So we know that the Nakul and Sahadev were born to Madri, because Madri says, I also want to be a mother. So they invoke the Ashwini Kumaras to get the twins Nakul and Sahadev. Now, this is much before all these things happened. There will be robbers who are escaping after a steal, and they hide in sage Mandavya's hermitage. Now, the authorities will capture the robbers and also take the sage along with them, and the sage will be punished as well. Now, sage inquires Lord Yama as to why he has been punished, to which Yama Dharmaraja replies, stating that he had tortured an insect as a child, and that is why he got this punishment this time. Punishing an action committed in childhood before one attains moral maturity was adharma. And hence, sage Mandavya cursed Yama to be born as a human and endure the suffering that he had. Yama was thus born as Vidura. We know that Yudhishthir's father is again Yama Dharmaraja. Right? So that is the kind of relationship in terms of the identity of people comes into place. Though he was not a subject of royalty, he was just a son of a maidservant. He became one among the most respected in the Kuru's court because of his knowledge of Dharma. And yet, he was insulted many times as well, by Duryodhan including. And again, that is also because of the curse that he has from sage Mandavya. Vidura's greatness is his wisdom, adherence to Dharma, and the trustworthiness that he had developed towards the Kuru kingdom. He came as a counterbalance with the rashness of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, the king, being totally blinded by his affection to his son. There is a specific text called as Vidura Niti. They are, this is not part of the Mahabharata, but it is an established text. I have not read it personally, but I'm aware of its existence. Right? It is basically that Vidura Niti will be seen across all of Mahabharata. Right? The ethics, the governance, the morality. There are after the war. In the Shanti Parva, there will be a beautiful teaching. It is one of the biggest of the Parvas. Right, the teachings that are done by Lord Krishna and Bhishma Pitama to King Yudhishthira is it reveals a lot about all of these values. That is the greatness of it. Vidura, as a human, demonstrated compassion, understanding, and the practical application of Dharma, fulfilling the purpose of his curse. Similar to Karna, Vidura also suffered lack of status that he deserved. Some traditions even express it as next to Karna in terms of the insults that he has borne. However, Vidura's intelligence and Dharma, unlike Karna, who compromised on Dharma to appease Duryodhan, earned respects, which is considered second only to Krishna, even above Bhishma Pitama, by some who have made their observations to be so. That is the greatness of Vidura. Right? Significant contributions. He was the one to warn the Pandava prince about the plot to kill them in the house of Vax, Lakshagriha. He was the only one to warn King Yudhishthira against playing the game of dice. He was one among the two who protested disrobing of Panchali in the court. The other was Vikarna, one among the brothers. When Lord Krishna went as an emissary to Hastinapur, Vidura was the only person in the court to support Lord Krishna. And Duryodhan bursts out at Vidura, blaming him as being low-born. There was no support from Dhritarashtra, despite Vidura being so much committed to the kingdom. So Vidura will break his bow and resign from the post of prime minister. He will vow not to fight the war. It is said that Vidura was a great archer, and perhaps had he joined the Kauravas, he would have defeated the Pandava. That was his excellence in terms of his fighting ability with the bow and arrow. After the war, King Yudhishthira offers the position of prime minister, which Vidura accepts. He becomes a prime minister again. When Vanaprastha takes place, Vidura joins Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti when they go to the forest. And then after a few years or after some period, Yudhishthira goes in search and he finds the body of Vidura in the forest. He will take it upon himself to perform the last rites, but he will hear a word from the divine, right, not to cremate the body. So he will leave without cremating the body and without disturbing the body. He will leave the forest. So this is the way the story of Vidura goes. Now, what is dhanam, burning of body? Now, this answer is not going to be conclusive in terms of Shastra. Shastra merely speaks of some who burn and some who bury the dead. If you read the Garud Puran, etc., that is the way that it is said. The traditional answer is burning is done in line with Havan, in which the fire is seen as the carrier of the Ahuti to the respective Devatas or Pitris. The body that we have is made of Panchatattva. We know that. Fire as the carrier unites the Panchatattva to their respective sources. Hence we burn. Burying. Shastra speaks of the ability to voluntarily leave the body. Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, Shloka 12 and 13 talks of specific processes. We will get to that when we are in the chapter 8. The body, which already stands liberated with all the elements in the body, right? In the symbolic liberation is what we are talking about. The physical body may still be there, right? So because it has already liberated and all the pancha, the five elements, the base elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, space, right? So all these five elements have already united with their respective, what do you say, the Sukshma Amsas, right? So for such a body, Kriya is not performed. So they bury the body. That is the basic difference. Now, as I said, this is more along the lines of what I have learned, right, by asking questions. And one thing that was told is they don't have any specific scripture to say this is what it is. But the general belief is this, or the general way to deal with such a question is this. Right? So, which is burning because we want to unite, and burying because the tattva has already been united. So, we do not want to bury that which has got, so we do not want to burn that which does not have anything to carry it forward. And hence, the body is buried. Okay, so I'll definitely welcome you to do your research. And if in case you find that this answer is not correct, feel free to correct me. This is more of something that I have gained through listening to people who are wise, those who have learned a lot. So it was told to me with a warning. So I'm giving it to you with a warning. But if there are other things that, with the AI and other things, particularly if there are other answers that we get, we can always explore it in our subsequent classes. So with this, we will close today's chapter and we will take up with Shloka number 35 in our next class. Okay. So I do see Ziggy Yam. Do you know who that is?
That's me.
Oh, man, okay. Sham has become so complicated, huh? Anyway, we'll start with Ziggy. Sir, do you have any questions from today's class? Any thoughts with the last portion?
No, it just, I mean, it was first time that I heard about that. So no.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Shubhaji, namaskar.
Oh my God, so many questions.
Go for it.
So, Nashi, I thought in the beginning, you had mentioned that there is no there is no religion concept, right? That yeah, we are born as a Brahmin, we are born as a all those things are not actually those are all what we made.
Um, I will clarify that.
Okay.
It is not based on birth.
Okay.
Okay. We will speak about religion as a separate thing, but Bhagwan himself says in the chapter 4, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtham Guna Karma Vibhakashah. Means I have created, as in Bhagwan has created these four varnas based on guna, which is sattvam, rajas, and tamas, and karma, the activities that we pursue in our life. So, who created it? It was created by Bhagwan, not by us. It is not based on any birth, and the term religion is not really applicable. Okay. Now, we have to define the religion. We use the term dharma, sanatana dharma, that which is supreme righteousness, right? And it can be anything, right? You can classify it as a religion, you can classify it as a caste, you can classify it as anything that you want. The Shastra only puts it as sanatana dharma. It is a dharma which is that which is practiced, acharati. The term religion is something that has come from the uh, Western influence into certain definitions. Uh, we can even say Semitic definitions. Basically, when you have a standard prescribed way of living, typically based in a book, based off of a guru or any other belief system, it is classified to be a religion. So religion has boundaries. Sanatana Dharma does not have such boundaries. It is only Dharma. And then we have seen how the Dharma gets divided in our earlier classes. Does it address your question?
Um, Maybe as we go on, it might clarify. I think I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet.
Got it. So in simple terms, it is not a traditional lineage kind of a stuff, right? I am manufacturing some products, right? Some of them are type A, some of them are type B, some of them are type C, some of them are type D. It may be the same injection molding that I'm using for, what do you say, for making a pen, but some pen are best, so they go into the type A, and that is sold at a higher price. Some are going into the type B. That is what is creation to Sattvam, Rajas, Tamas. Sorry, that is what is related to Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shoodra. I'm not saying Shudra is lower. I'm not saying Brahmana is higher or anything of that sort. Don't put that pricing model into this. All are equal, but they have their own influences. That is the way that we should take it and not confuse it with any religion or other things.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other question? I thought you had a lot of questions.
Yes. I think I'll save it.
Okay. And you can always post it in the WhatsApp as well, and we can try to exchange it there, or we can take it to the next class as
I
well.
might want to debate it out with you sometime. I'll it's not like a question, but I always have like, you know, for some reason we said Karna. supported his friend, and because it was adharma, that's why he was, you know, he has to go through a lot of pain. But whereas, um, you know, Bhishmacharya, even though he supported the same people, but we consider him like there is a different treatment for him, because there is a reason why. But then why is it different for one person? The same thing, like we say in some cases dharma, we say in some cases adharma.
Wow. These are all kind of great googly questions, but we need to understand that dharma is something related to an action being performed. Acharati iti dharma. Dharma is not a classification of a right versus wrong. Right? So this is a very important difference that we need to take into consideration. Now, with respect to dharma and adharma of Karna, when, for example, Draupadi was disrobed, he was part of it. Not only did he encourage, but he was also part of it, which is absolutely an adharma. On the other hand, with respect to Bhishma, he was not part of it. He was silent. He endured the pain for a simple reason that it is against the dharma to speak in front of the king when king has not granted you the permission to do so. It is one of the court's rule. But we did discuss about Vibhishan versus Bhishma Pitama, wherein both of them, they face something called as Dharm Sankat. Dharm Sankat is where you have two dharmas in front of you and you do not know which one to choose. If you choose one, you will break the other. And if you choose the other, you will break this one. Both were in that situation. But Vibhishan took the right decision to side with Rama, as opposed to Bhishma, who missed in terms of upholding the better of the two dharmas when it came to maintaining silence versus speaking up. So he did not side with the action of adharma. He was silent because of some other dharma. The second instance that we talk of Karna when it comes to adharma is he will partake. He is one of he is the greatest of the warrior. He was one who can face, Arjuna. He was that great of a warrior. Despite being such a great warrior, he attacked simultaneously. The way that they slayed, if in case you read the complete details of Abhimanyu's slaying within the Chakravyuh, you will see, your eyes will tear and you will know how adharmic it was. And Karna was part of it. Right? So it is considered to be extreme adharma. Yet, because of his generosity in giving, Shastra says that even though he committed greatest of the adharmas in that, his adharma was subdued and his dharma still stands up. So people still name their child as Karna with pride, despite the adharma because of that. So it is not like he is adharmic or he is not adharmic. It is whether I practiced the dharma in a given situation or not. That is what is life all about. It is not whether Naresh is right or Naresh is wrong. When it comes to dharma, did I practice dharma in a situation? And there may be instances where I did, and there may be instances where I did not. Take a pragmatic look, evolve, and grow from it. Does it answer your question?
Very helpful, actually. I think all this is coming from ignorance. Maybe, as I said, as I understand more and more, I might answer my own questions, I guess.
Absolutely. That is what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Very, very true.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Jyotiji, namaskar.
Namaste, Nashji. Very good class, Nashji, and very good questions, Shiva. We all will learn from it. No more questions, Nashji. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let us do the Shanti part and close the class today. Harihi Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.